Hey guys, this is Damien from SauceBoss Gaming, and here's my review of Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is a beautiful open-world action-adventure game set during the first Mongol invasion of Japan in 1274. It tells the adventure of Jin Sakai, a powerful samurai living in the island of Tsushima, and his transformation as he journeys to free the island and its people from the Mongol invaders. One of the things I like about this game is it reminds me a lot of Way of the Samurai and Tenchu, for those of you who are old enough to remember those games. I also notice a lot of similarities from samurai movies. So overall, this game gives me a true samurai feel every time I pick up the controller. As far as gameplay, we're going to go ahead and start off with combat. Okay, so just to jump straight into it, when you fight in Ghost of Tsushima, you have three different styles of combat. The main one I'm going to say is more like a Batman Arkham Knight type game where you're able to fight groups of enemies, and as you play the game, the enemy types change. So you have four stances that you can learn as you go, and they basically help you fight the different enemy types. So you have sword enemies, shield enemies, enemies with the spear, and brutes. And like I said, they evolve over time, so it's not just a one-stop shop. Now, one of the cool things about combat in this system is you don't have traditional healing items. You have what's called resolve, and those are the yellow bubbles that you see at the bottom left. Now, you get resolve by doing things like a perfect parry or defeating enemies. And it's cool because the resolve not only heals you, but it powers up special moves that you get as you progress through the game. Ghost gameplay is focused on more stealth aspects like silent kills or using a smoke bomb to get out of enemy sight so you could perform a quick stealth kill and hide from oncoming enemies. You could also do things like use the environment to help out with thinning the herd a little bit during your stealth missions. So right now, I'm opening a bear cage so the bear can go out, fight some enemies, and I can take them out from afar. The next thing you could do as far as fighting is concerned is dueling. Now, for those of you who've seen samurai movies, this is basically the video game splitting image of those fight scenes. You have a nice little stare down, the wind is blowing, you're looking at your opponent, and then you go right into a one-on-one fight. Now, the cool thing about duels, other than the cinematic flair, is there are no extra items. So you're not going to be using a bow and arrow or kunai to help you in this fight. It's just your knowledge of the basics and how well you could apply them. At the end, you're able to unlock skill points and new abilities for Jin depending on the enemy that you're fighting. Another cool part of combat I want to talk about are the standoffs. This is where you call out a group of enemies, so they send out their best fighter, and you challenge them to a quick draw match. Now, this is kind of like Red Dead, where you have to wait until the opponent moves before you react. If you mess up, then you're hit with a critical blow, and you have to fight the rest of the enemies. Now, the cool thing about this is later on you could upgrade this ability to where you could attack multiple enemies during one. Now, fair warning, the standoffs are not a cheat code to get rid of all the enemies. There are times where you're still going to have groups of enemies that you have to fight, and there will be times like right now where the camera is a little off and it's hard to see who's coming to attack you. To be honest, this is my only gripe with the game is, there was a few times there were some camera issues, but outside of that, I had a blast with everything else. Now, as far as the overall gameplay, I know I said playing as a samurai or playing as a ghost. The thing is, there is no clear-cut way to play the game.
you could do it however way you want. If you want to do, straight up fights where, you run in head on and fight groups of enemies, you could do that. If you want to be more tactical and use smoke bombs or fight from the shadows, you could do that as well. Or as they say, playing as the ghost. Now, the cool thing about it is there is no clear morality system. There are things that happen within the story that kind of change certain dialogue, but I feel from what I've played through and from what I've heard from friends, there is no clear way to change the story. So if you want to play as a samurai, or you want to play more as the ghost, or as I look at it, a ninja, then you could do that. If you want to blend the two together, that's great as well. Like I said, it's not going to change the story, and as far as I know, everyone will pretty much get the same ending. And without any spoilers, the whole story is worth it no matter how you decide to play the game. It's awesome. They give you a lot of choices when it comes to approaching combat, and I can't really say I had a moment where I was bored because, like I said, there's no penalty for playing one way or the other. It's just, how you want to approach certain situations. Outside of some missions, there will be times where you have to sneak around. But overall, I mean, combat and taking over fortresses, pretty straightforward. You can do what you want. As far as story blips go, without spoilers, at one point in the game you unlock the ability to use ghost mode. Now, the ghost mode is kind of like a double trigger. You don't necessarily transform, but the screen changes to like a black and white, old school, grainy look. And every time you slaughter an opponent, the screen flashes red and black. And it's really awesome when you get it. The cool thing is, it is overpowered and you can one-shot a lot of enemies, but you could only kill 3 enemies, and if you get hit, you lose your entire ghost meter. So it's a pretty nice balance. You can't just run through the whole game one-shotting everyone. So I like that they added that part. Now, since this is an action game, one of the things that I thought about going into this is how does experience work, and it's pretty cool. So, when you go through the game, you increase your legend, and there's a few ways to do this. You do missions, defeat enemies, and that's pretty much about it. Now, when you go through, every time you increase a segment of your legend, you're able to get 1 skill point, which means you're able to either unlock an ability or strengthen the abilities you already have. And that includes stances, so that's pretty cool. Other ways to make yourself more powerful are mini games like the bamboo slicing mini game, the hot springs that you could find around the world, and also following the foxes to different shrines so you can get different charms to help boost your power. Another cool thing that I liked about Ghost of Tsushima is the way they handle cosmetics. I know a lot of games nowadays they have you doing microtransactions so you can customize your player. And in Ghost of Tsushima, you could do haiku poems, which gets you a customized headband. You can find honor shrines around the maps, so you could, upgrade your weapons as far as looks. You could also get offerings from the people of Tsushima, which has, different masks and things. Again, you could use to customize your player. You also have the option to customize your armor to different levels, and like most games, the higher you go, the more they add to the overall look, and you can mix and match how you want these different armor sets to look as you progress through the game. So that was a really nice feature. And again, it's all free as long as you explore the map and just, take everything in. Another cool thing about Ghost of Tsushima is the way that you traverse the environment. So, for instance, when I want to go somewhere, I'm not guided by a giant floaty marker in the sky. You're mainly guided by the wind and also yellow birds that help you find, different cosmetic items, different mini games, things like that. You're also guided by foxes. Like I said earlier, they help you find little points where you can get charms and upgrades. So it was a really nice touch for them to put that in there, and then to just make that feature better, they also have an option where you could turn off the icon markers that do pop up. So like I said, when you're playing the game, you're not going to see any giant markers floating over locations that you're supposed to go to. Instead, you'll see like smoke or something like that. Now, when you get closer, you will have icons, but you could turn that off if you want to fully be immersed in the game. And I think, again, that is a really fresh way.
So another cool thing that you could do in Ghost of Tsushima, aside from following the wind and following birds to find new items, is participate in legend missions. And how you do this is you'll go to a town and there will be a storyteller who will give you a backstory of a technique or a weapon or armor set that exists in Tsushima. And what you do is, after you learn about these stories, you go on a few different side quests, and at the end they normally end up with you dueling someone who either has the technique or has that armor piece or weapon that you're looking for. And if you win, you basically get to level up with a new item. So again, a nice fresh way to approach the gameplay and also increase the lore. I really like the legends because it added to the lore of the world, and also the build-up was always on point. This mission right here, you were trying to learn a legendary sword technique, and just as you approach, you have a nice level of build-up with the lightning picking up and just the anticipation of a good fight. And the boss during this mission really made you work for it. And it's not just this one, it's all the other missions that you go through. You really feel like you're earning that piece of equipment and you're earning that technique. And so I appreciate all that because it did make the game even more fun. Overall, I feel like Sucker Punch knocked it out of the park. The gameplay is solid, the world is beautiful to look at and just explore. I love the upgrade system and the fact that you do not have to do microtransactions to change the way your character looks. I think that's awesome as well. Again, as far as negatives, the only big negative I had was, the slight camera issue here and there. But other than that, this game is amazing. So if you get the chance to pick it up, please do so, especially because they're going to add another layer by including a multiplayer. I believe they're going to do it in the holiday season. So, if you get a chance, pick this game up. Multiplayer's coming out. You will not be disappointed. Now, this is the end of my review. Again, this is Damien with SauceBoss Gaming. I'll see you next time.